Hello and welcome back to Kosar's Film Corner. Or if you are joining for the first time, this is Kosar, a lifelong cinephile and a movie critic. On this channel, I share my thoughts on some of the TV series and movies I watch, diving into what makes them work, from the storytelling and structure to the style and performances. Today I'm going to talk about a British spy thriller, Slow Horses. Espionage fiction has long followed a familiar formula: hyper-competent agents, high-stakes missions, and the world hanging in the balance. From the suave theatrics of James Bond to the cerebral maneuvers of John le Carré and the adrenaline-fueled pace of the American shows like 24, the genre typically revolves around control, precision, and mythic heroism. Slow Horses, by contrast, dismantles that mythology. In both Mick Herron's novels and the television adaptation, it drags the spy drama into the overlooked corners of British intelligence, where failure is routine, glory is a joke, and the fluorescent lights never quite stop flickering. This is not a story of triumph, but of attrition, where the discarded agents of a slow house are forced to carry on not out of duty, but because there is nothing else left. What emerges is a spy story stripped of illusion, dry, bruised, and closer to real life than the genre usually dares to go. Slow Horses takes place within the shadowy fringes of British intelligence, not in the sleek headquarters of MI5, but in a forgotten satellite office known as a Slow House. This is where failed spies are sent, not fired, but discarded. Agents who have botched operations, misread intel, or simply embarrassed the service too publicly to be kept around are exiled here, forced to endure a life of drudgery, filing meaningless reports and chasing dead leads. The nickname for these misfits is "slow horses", a grim pun on both the location and their perceived uselessness. Slow House is an administrative purgatory, and its leader, Jackson Lamb, seems intent on making it even more miserable. Lamb's contempt for his underlings is matched only by his expectation that they will eventually quit out of boredom or despair. Yet, in spite of this, or perhaps because of it, the slow horses repeatedly find themselves pulled into real, high stakes operations, often by accident, sometimes through stubbornness, and occasionally out of a need to prove that failure doesn't mean irrelevance. Slow Horses is so compelling because it operates on multiple levels simultaneously. On the surface, it's a slow burn thriller, filled with surveillance operations, political betrayals, and shifting alliances. But underneath that is a deeply psychological character study, a drama about people who have been broken by the same institutions they once served. The show resists conventional narrative arcs. There are no clean redemptions, no triumphant career comebacks. Instead, it offers something rarer and more satisfying: a portrait of damaged individuals learning how to function not in spite of their flaws, but through them. It finds tension not just in what these characters do, but in what they choose not to do, their hesitations, their compromises, their private failures. And in a genre so often obsessed with competence and control, Slow Horses dares to focus on the messy, the humiliated, the overlooked. This tonal and thematic richness is no accident. It stems from the show's central artistic strategy: defamiliarization. Slow Horses deliberately unsettles our expectations of what a spy story should look and feel like. The genre's usual symbols of power, such as sharply dressed agents, pristine offices, high-tech weaponry, are stripped away, leaving behind the rot and rust of a decaying institution. The characters are not archetypes of patriotism or ruthlessness. They are compromised, exhausted, petty, and often absurd. And yet, in this strangeness, they become more human. Jackson Lamb, in particular, is the epitome of this approach: a repellent figure on the surface, but layered with intelligence, history, and a kind of a scorched moral code. By making the familiar unfamiliar, the show invites us to question the myths we have been fed about espionage and replaces them with something far more truthful and haunting. This quality, more than any single plot twist or action sequence, is the key to Slow Horse's enduring power. Slow Horses began not as a streaming sensation, but as the first installment in a critically admired, quietly subversive series of novels by British author Mick Herron. The book was published in 2010, introducing readers to the dismal outpost of a slow house and its cast of failed spies. What set Herron's work apart from the beginning was its sharp blend of deadpan wit, political cynicism, and character-driven storytelling. Far from romanticizing espionage, Harron exposed its absurdities: the bureaucracy, the office politics, the personal ruin it leaves in its wake. The series quickly gained a devoted readership, with critics comparing Herron to John le Carré for his psychological depths, while also praising his dark comic sensibility, more reminiscent of Graham Greene. Over time, the Slow House novels have grown into a major franchise, with 10 entries so far and no signs of slowing down. Adapting Slow Horses for television was no easy task. Mick Herron's novels are dense with interiority, dark humor, and political nuance, not the usual ingredients for a fast-paced TV thriller. But the Slow Horses TV series, developed by writer Will Smith, manages something rare. It stays remarkably faithful to the tone and texture of the books. Rather than speeding up or simplifying the story, the show embraces its slow burn. It leans into its awkward silences, bureaucratic standoffs, and the cramped, grimly atmosphere of a slow house. Dialogue is often lifted directly from the page, especially Lamb's withering insults. Even the pacing reflects Heron's rhythm, less concerned with explosive spectacle than with tension that accumulates in small, uncomfortable moments. Visually, too, the series resists gloss. Grays, browns, and institutional greens dominates the palette, mirroring the washed-out world these characters inhabit. What results is an adaptation that doesn't just translate the novels, it amplifies their bleak charm for a new medium. At the very heart of Slow Horses lies one of the most audacious characters in recent television, Jackson Lamb. He is, in almost every visible sense, a grotesque figure, fat, vulgar, slovenly, and proudly indifferent to hygiene or social norms. He doesn't shower, wears hole-ridden socks, clips his fingernails at his desk, drinks at all hours, and summons his subordinates by banging his foot on the floor. There is a near constant expression of boredom on his face, as if every interaction with another human being is an inconvenience. And let's be honest, he's not satisfying to look at, even though he's played by Gary Oldman. That dissonance is part of the point. Lamb deliberately refuses all the visual and behavioral codes we associate with the intelligence operatives. He is, by every standard of genre convention, an anti-character. And yet, this man is a former top-tier operative and possibly still the most brilliant mind in the room. His strategic acuity, his encyclopedic memory, and his cold moral calculus make him terrifying in ways that no suave agent in a tuxedo ever could be. Lamb is not a fallen hero, nor a cynic with a heart of gold. He is something far more unsettling, the inevitable product of an institution that demands total loyalty, discards people when they falter, and leaves no space for conscience. He is what happens when survival becomes the only value left standing. He is the show's clearest embodiment of defamiliarization, a character who forces us to confront what lies behind the facade of intelligence. On the surface, casting Gary Oldman as Jackson Lamb was a contradiction. One of Britain's most distinguished actors, known for his transformative roles from Beethoven to George Smiley to Winston Churchill, Oldman is an actor of immense control and technical elegance. Jackson Lamb, by contrast, is a character defined by physical and moral disintegration. He belches, insults, limps, sweats, and slouches. He barely moves unless it's absolutely necessary. He is repulsive, even alienating, and yet, in Gary Oldman's hands, he becomes magnetic. This is not a showy performance in the conventional sense. There are no grand speeches, no emotional outbursts engineered for awards reels. What Oldman delivers instead is something far rarer in television, an anti-charismatic performance that dares the viewer to look closer, to see past the layers of dirt and sarcasm, and into a character who has learned to weaponize his own unpleasantness. Oldman's Lamb doesn't ask for our sympathy, and yet, by sheer force of psychological depth, he earns something like respect. It's a daring, often uncomfortable portrayal, and it elevates the entire series. Without him, it would risk becoming a parody. With him, it becomes a tragedy. While Jackson Lamb commands attention with his caustic presence, Slow Horses is, at its core, an ensemble drama. Its strength lies in the slow, empathetic unfolding of characters who've been discarded, not just professionally, but personally. Each slow horse carries a private wound that goes beyond their MI5 failure. River Cartridge is young and capable, but haunted by a career-derailing mistake that may not have been his. He is driven by the need to redeem himself in the eyes of his legendary grandfather and in the mirror. Catherine Standish, the team's administrator, is a recovering alcoholic and former secretary to a top agent. She clings to structure as a lifeline, her trauma rendered with restraint, not melodrama. Roddy Ho, the arrogant IT specialist, provides comic relief and a sobering reminder: even in espionage, mediocrity often floats. Other team members, Louisa, Shirley, Marcus, emerge over time as quietly complex, their stories unfolding in half glances and moments of refusal. None of them are heroes, but from the margins. They often see more clearly than the polished operatives at Regent Park. The casting is a masterstroke, from the fresh-faced, conflicted Jack Lowden as River to the quietly powerful Saskia Reeves as Catherine. Every actor embodies their character's contradictions perfectly. This is a rare example of casting that doesn't just fit the parts, it elevates them, adding layers of empathy and realism to a story about failure and survival. One of the most remarkable and intentional choices in Slow Horses is its opening theme, Strange Game, an original song composed specifically for the series by Mick Jagger and Daniel Pemberton. This is not a repurposed track or a stylistic flourish, it's a piece of music born from the same sensibility that shapes the show itself. Jagger and Pemberton didn't just score the title sequence, they distilled the entire series into a song. What they created is more than a theme. This is a thesis, a prologue, and a portrait of the show's emotional and moral world. Each line echoes the psychology of the characters, isolated, bitter, alert, and quietly fractured. It's as though the song is sung from inside a slow house itself, its crumbling walls listening to the footsteps of those who no longer believe in redemption, but still get up in the morning and show up for work. And then there is the voice. Jagger's performance is not polished, it's rough, weary, lived in. His harsh, gravely delivery mirrors the condition of the slow horses themselves, aged, neglected, and enduring. He doesn't sing like a rock star here. He sounds like someone who has seen things fall apart and who now watches others rot in the aftermath. His voice becomes a character in its own right, sharing in the exhaustion and dark humor that defines the series. In a landscape where most television themes function as brief, decorative preludes, Strange Game is something rare, a song that encapsulates character, theme, and tone in under 3 minutes. It's in every sense the voice of slow horses. With multiple seasons already aired and more confirmed, Slow Horses show no sign of slowing down. Although Will Smith, the showrunner who masterfully adapted Mick Herron's novels, has recently left the series, there is cautious optimism that his departure won't significantly impact the show's strong identity. One of the show's smartest and most distinguishing production choices has been to appoint a single director to helm all episodes of each season. This approach ensures a consistent visual style and tone that perfectly complements the narrative's slow-burning tension and dark humor. With the Slow Horses already renewed for at least 7 seasons, the future looks very promising for this adaptation. This means we can expect many more stories centered around Jackson Lamb and his team of misfit spies. The show's continued success ensures that Heron's world and its flawed, fascinating characters will remain a vital presence on screen for years to come. Why watch Slow Horses? Because it delivers a fresh and gripping take on the spy genre, blending sharp storytelling with richly drawn, imperfect characters who defy expectations. The series invites viewers into a world where failure is not the end, but the beginning of a deeper, more compelling story. With its smart, deliberate pacing and a distinct visual style, Slow Horses feels both cinematic and intimate. It's a show that rewards patience and attention, offering suspense and dark humor in equal measure. For anyone looking for something original, complex, and thoroughly entertaining, Slow Horses is a must-watch. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed it, please consider liking, subscribing, and commenting below. See you soon back here on Kosar's Film Corner. Thank you.